Hello, I'm Nathan Oriana, and today I'll be talking about the global significance of Aedes mosquitoes, specifically Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus, and why they matter so much for public health, especially here in Florida. Even though they're small, their impact is massive. I'm going to walk you through how they spread, how climate change affects this, what's happening in Florida, and how we're trying to control them. For us to be able to understand why these mosquitoes matter so much, we first need to look at their global impact. Aedes mosquitoes are responsible for spreading one of the most important arboviruses in the world, dengue, Zika, and yellow fever. Dengue alone infects about 390 million people every year, which is honestly staggering. These mosquitoes thrive in places where humans live, especially in crowded cities. As urbanization increases, temperatures rise, and travel becomes more common, these mosquitoes spread faster and farther. So if these mosquitoes are causing so many problems worldwide, how exactly did they spread so successfully? Aedes aegypti originally came from Africa, and Aedes albopictus came from Asia. What makes albopictus especially dangerous as an invader is that its eggs can survive drying out. This lets them travel easily through shipments like used tires and plants. Because of this, albopictus is now established in over 32 US states and is considered one of the world's worst invasive species. In the map below, the warm colors indicate a higher probability of Aedes aegypti. This tropical mosquito now infects urban areas in Africa, Asia, America, and Oceania. It reflects its dramatic spread beyond its African origin. As temperature rises, mosquitoes' habitat becomes more suitable and more widespread. This is why climate change is very important when it comes to this situation. Studies show that Aedes aegypti habitat suitability has already been increasing for decades and is expected to rise even farther in the future. Longer warm seasons mean more breeding cycles, fewer winter die-offs, and more chances for disease transmission. This is why outbreaks are now showing up in places that used to be too cool for these species. One of the best real-life examples of all this is happening all at once in Florida. Florida mosquito ecology. Florida has at least 84 mosquito species, and both Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus are well established here. Aegypti sticks close to dense urban areas, while albopictus dominates suburban and greener environments. Our rainy season from May through October creates perfect breeding conditions and lines up exactly with peak in mosquito activity and disease risk. On top of these two major species, Florida is now dealing with new arrivals. In 2020, Aedes scopularis was detected in South Florida for the first time. This species is capable of transmitting several pathogens, including viruses that cause Venezuelan equine. Its establishment raises concerns about future disease risks if it continues to spread northward. With all these mosquitoes present, it's no surprise that Florida has seen real disease outbreaks. In 2016, Miami experienced the first local transmission of Zika virus in the continental US, driven by Aedes aegypti. Dengue was actually eliminated from Florida by 1970, but it has since returned. In 2020, Florida recorded 71 locally transmitted dengue cases, most in Miami and the Florida Keys. These outbreaks usually begin when infected travelers bring the virus into the state. So panel A on this side shows imported travel-related dengue cases by county, with major travel hubs like Miami-Dade, which would have around 1,400 cases, and the orange Orlando, 169 cases, reporting the highest numbers. Panel B shows locally transmitted dengue, which is relatively infrequent and focused in the southern counties. Here it's notably in Monroe County, which had around 250 local cases, and in Miami-Dade, which is 131 cases. These localized outbreaks occur when infected travelers introduce the virus at a local level. For example, Florida's first Zika transmission occurred in Miami, specifically in Wynwood in 2016, resulting in 4 clusters, which is 29 cases, before control measures could ever take place. Dengue was historically eradicated from Florida in the 1970s, but has since reemerged. So there's currently 71 local dengue cases that happened in 2020, which mostly happened in the Keys and Miami, compromised of 86% of all of US dengue that year. So the question is, how does Florida fight back against all of this? Mosquito control programs. Florida has 66 mosquito control districts that use integrated vector management. That includes removing standing water, applying biological larvicides, and spraying adults during outbreaks. Both Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus are top priority species for control because of their disease potential. ULV, or ultra low volume insecticide spraying, is shown by a mosquito control truck at the bottom. But traditional control methods aren't always enough, unfortunately, so Florida is also testing new strategies. Innovative control methods. New approaches include the release of genetically modified male mosquitoes that reduce future populations, as well as mosquitoes infected with Wolbachia, which lowers their ability to transmit viruses. These tools are promising, but insecticides resistance is becoming a growing issue, which means control methods must constantly evolve as mosquitoes constantly adapt. Conclusion. Aedes mosquitoes remain one of the most dangerous disease vectors in the world because of their adaptability. Their close relationship with human environments and the effects of climate change. Florida shows exactly how climate, travel, and human behavior combine to shape outbreak risk. Keeping these mosquitoes under controls requires constant surveillance, public participation, and updated technology. And finally, here are all the sources that supported all of this information. And these are all the image citations, and they are found in order of presented. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.